Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 21, okay, of our small business breakthrough session. And our topic for today is, I'm getting followers, but not buyers. I'm getting followers, but not buyers. And that could mean a whole lot of things, okay? But I first thought it's interesting because all of us are using a whole lot of different platforms when it comes to social media, whether they're YouTube, like Alan does so well with, or on Instagram and Facebook, where Tina does well, or LinkedIn, where John does well. The bottom line is this, that all of us have followers, but are we actually optimizing the followers we've got? And in fact, are these followers the right followers? Do we have the right people following us in the first place? Because if we don't have the right people following us in the first place, then maybe whatever we're doing on those platforms, we're talking to the wrong people. Just food for thought. And I just want to throw it open there. And let's talk about that, okay, and see how we go. All right. So to save my voice, how about someone else talk for a moment while I just take a few deep breaths? All right.
You brought up a very valid point, Peter. There's a lot of us. I know, for example, on Alignable, I now have over 2,900 connections. Now, a lot of those connections I know aren't the right ones because when I first started, I was connected with everybody and their dog, and the numbers looked good. But as far as potential business went, it sucked. And you brought up a very valid point. Like, make sure you have the right people following you. Because if you don't, the numbers can look good, but they don't mean a damn thing to your revenue and your income. Your COI, your cost of inaction, is going to be very high simply because you're spending a lot of your time, effort, and possibly money doing things that don't work. The other thing that we all need to consider when we do a presentation to these people, whether it's an exploratory call, a diagnostic call, whatever you want to call it, you have to remember there's two sales that need to be made. One, they have to buy your solution. That's great. You can have the best solution going. But the second most important one is they have to buy you. And if they don't buy you, there's never going to be a sale made. So what makes you different and stand out from everybody else? Thanks, Peter.
Well said, John. Well said. Two sales is very important. I mean, one of the things that was a challenge to me, and it still is, to be quite frank with you, and it's got nothing to do with ego, but everything to do with numbers in a funny way. Okay, I mean, when people reach out to make a connection request to me, I mean, none of us want to be rude to people, all right? And you don't want to reject people because, I mean, that's not what we're put on this earth for. We're here to try and help in any way we can. But by the same token, if you are accepting people who reach out to connect with you, especially on LinkedIn, which I'm referring to, then those people may very well be not in your best interests. One, because they may never be people who will ever be part of your real community. They're just playing the numbers game, okay? And that only comes out. I mean, when I say to people, I'm interested, tell me, Alan, what prompted you to reach out and connect with me? Okay. Now, if I do that before we connect, I've got a better idea. But if I don't do it until after we connect, sometimes I find that I've connected with people that I should never have connected with in the first place. That's the first thing. Secondly, those people can often be spammers, right? Because within a nanosecond, I can see Tina nodding her head there. Within a nanosecond, right? These same people, I might say, Tina, thank you Thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate. No, thank you for reaching out to me. I look forward to getting to know you. Dot dot dot. That's what I say, right? And within a nanosecond, I've got a link, right? A link to do something, and that link, whatever it is, puts me off. It doesn't matter whether it's the greatest offer in the world. Right now, Tina, you don't know me from Adam, so why the hell are you sending me a link? Why don't you get to know me a little bit first, right? So that was behind the scenes for me, okay? So in other words, we need to build a target audience. And sometimes we've got to learn to say no to people. That's all. Anyway, what about your thoughts, Alan or Tina? I mean, I'm getting croaky, so I've got to shush for a minute.
Tina, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I don't know whether you guys get the all of the girl scammers that try to come in on that, but then when you get in LinkedIn specifically, you get all of the marketing scammers, and you're right. I've already had two today. Usually it's no less than four every single day. And so my aspect is I know how I want to show up in front of my clients and my professional people, the people that would refer to me. I know how I want to show up, and I don't want to show up the way that these marketers are showing up. And if I don't want to show up that way, why would I hire somebody that is showing up that way? Because they're only going to teach me to show up that way. Two is I work in the area of divorce. So I work in the area of law. And when you're working with people trying to divorce, these people don't hire you right away. So hiring a marketer that doesn't understand my field is a waste of money. So in the case with I've got a lot of followers, but not any buyers. So in my case, the majority of my followers are not going to be my buyers. They're going to be my referral partners. And so when I put a post out, I need to think about how the lawyer or the certified divorce financial analyst or the realtor is going to read my post. Because if they read that I'm supporting their work, then more than likely they're going to want to make referrals or at least connect with me and find out more about my work. So in my case, my followers are not my buyers. They probably never will be. Maybe 1 to 2%, but they will be referral partners in my case.
That's a very good point. Very good point, Tina. And maybe the word buyers is incorrect when you think about it, because referral partners are probably just as important, if not more important, than a buyer. Well said indeed. But fascinating, Tina. You said almost on a daily basis, you get spammers, right? In your specialty area of divorce. Can you share a little bit more? What sort of spammers are they?
Well, the majority of them are marketing spammers. Some of them are VAs, and I don't really consider a VA spamming. I mean, yes, I don't want a VA that does that to me, but I feel for them because they're out there trying to get their money too. Now, the marketers, yeah, they're doing the same thing, but again, I will not hire somebody that is treating me in a way I would never treat my clients. So the majority on LinkedIn anyways, they're marketing spammers, and then the VAs come in and try to tell you what they're able to do. And then there are some that are authors. I recently had one for a TED Talk. I'll teach you how to do TED Talks. And so those people, when they come and they talk with me, like for instance, we're going to tell you about John for a minute. When John made contact with me the first time, he never told me what he did. I don't know that I heard anything until the very end of the call when I asked what he did. But he kept communicating with me, and he has since he's known me over these last 3-ish years, where he's talked about my martial arts. He found a connection that he had with me. He comes in from law enforcement. I came in from law enforcement. And so he made a connection with me that he and I shared. And
Mm.
that is the type of person I'm going to hire because they care more about me than about their bottom line.
No, that's valid, Tina. But you raise another issue, and that is if people don't know what problem you do solve, then they're never going to pay you anyway.
Right. Right.
So there's a balancing trick we have to do there. And I hear what you say about John. John didn't push down your throat what he did. He made you the center of attention. He got you to open up and share your journey in life and in business, all right? And you've found a common connection between you in terms of your past areas. But what John was doing was building trust with you, right? That's what he was doing. And the best way to do that, of course, is to show genuine interest in the problems that you are facing. Okay. But sooner or later, if he didn't share with you what problems he solves, then you would never have hired him anyway, would you, when you think about it? You just would have thought, yeah,
No,
nice.
but the whole time we spoke, he was helping solve problems of mine the whole time. He was
Mm.
digging in and making little suggestions. So I kind of already knew what he did. But then I wanted to know more because he was doing his job free of
Yes.
charge, unsolicited. And
Yeah.
the unsolicited part was that he was caring more about me and my problem than he was about his problem.
Maybe he was sharing with you an understanding of the problems you had that helped you clarify in your own mind what they were.
And and that could be coming into this type of marketing. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And it was all, hang up your plaque and you put an ad in the yellow pages and they will come. They did come. Now it's 10 times the work and you can't just put out your plaque that says divorce coach. You have to teach people what a divorce coach is. You have to talk to them. You have to tell them how you fix their problems with their emotions and the fact that you're able to save them thousands of dollars. And you have to teach them, in my case, that having a lawyer and a divorce coach is going to save them money when it seems like, well, I'm paying for two of you. How can you save me money? So I've got a lot of things I have to do where back in the day, you just put an ad in the yellow pages and they came.
Yeah. And at the same time, what John was showing you, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, John, but this is a really good topic for people to watch on and listen to in the replay. What John was showing you was not just genuine interest in you, Tina, but is also showing you not only how to clarify what your real problem was, but he actually got you to a point when you asked him, "Can you help me?"
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you became a buyer. He never was a seller.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I liked what was taking place. I liked the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, he
And,
came from
and
where I came from.
right. And you never felt sold to because you decided you wanted to know more about John.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And well done, John. Well done. Alan, what about you?
Yeah, I think I relate to exactly what Tina and John have been saying. What is the sort of peculiarity for me is that with high value transactions, people want to get to really know you and build a relationship with you before they'll trust you. So it's a matter of building a relationship as long as it takes. Usually, sometimes you can help people with advice for one problem, and then at a later date, they'll come back when they have a different problem to solve. So it's a very long lead-in period for acquiring new clients for me, and there's got to be this personal relationship that applies to either property owners who've got a problem to solve, usually, or investors as well, because investors want to be sure that they're going to get their money back as a minimum, and then they want to be sure they're going to get the interest on the money as well. So, quite a high level of trust needed from anybody dealing in property, which is all relatively high value stuff.
So, Alan, when you talk about a relatively long, I think the term you used was lead-in time, right? Lead-in.
Yes.
Give me some idea. How long are we talking about?
Well,
Maybe.
in some cases it can be months and even years, that it takes to build up a relationship. One would hope that it wouldn't take that long, but sometimes it just does. You get some people who've got particular problems which you think maybe they need to solve quickly, and maybe they don't need to solve them that quickly. So it just depends. Every individual is different from the point of view of a seller of a property or an investor, and they've each got different criteria. For example, I had one potential investor just ask me out of the blue, would I give him a personal guarantee on his investment? And I said, well, no, I won't give a personal guarantee. I'll give you security on a property, but not a personal guarantee, because with some of the high rates of interest that we give, the investor has got to accept that there is some risk in the investment. He's getting a great return, probably 3 or 4 times as much as he would get in the bank, and it's I think fair and reasonable that if an investor is getting such a high rate of return, that they do take some risk, albeit that it's not very much risk, because we give them security on a property.
Yeah, you make me think a bit, because whether it's the investor or the property salesperson or what, and when you're dealing in time frames that you're sharing, it could be months or even years. That in itself must create significant problems in keeping, first of all, in top of mind with all the parties involved, right?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Plus patience at the same time.
Yeah,
Plus
patience.
trying to manage people's expectations who've got completely different.
Yeah, that's right. And some people have got completely unrealistic expectations as well. Like there are some people who think that because we do something for a social purpose, that somehow the investor who's involved will accept a low rate of interest. Well, no, an investor who's putting money into a project which carries some risk, as I was just explaining, not a lot, because they get security on the property, but if they were going to take no risk, they would just leave their money in the bank at 4%. So no investor is going to take the money out of the bank at 4% and loan it to someone at risk to do a project for 4%. They want some additional return, to reflect the risk they're taking.
Which raises another point for all of us to think about. I mean, I'm so pleased that you shared your expertise and experience, Alan, because you've got a completely different challenge to the rest of us when you think about it in terms of time frames alone. But at the same time, how would you say this? If you are not consistently giving people the chance to work with you, in one way, shape, or another, then they're never going to become buyers anyway, so to speak. Correct?
No, that's right. You just don't know until you have the right conversation. And to give an example of that, I actually flew when I was in Marbella recently last week, and then on the way back from Marbella, I didn't come straight back to the UK. I flew to Milan because there was a Swiss investor there who apparently was going to invest in one or more of the projects that I've got. But then when I actually met the person, I realized that they may have been a Swiss investor, but they were actually a scammer. So you just don't know until you meet people. They made all the right noises.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't want to go to Milan. I offered them a Zoom call, and they said, "Oh no, we're very keen to meet with you in person." Well, yeah, I wish they hadn't, and I wish I hadn't flown there because it's just wasted my time.
Mm. Yeah, but understandable, because in the back of your mind, you're thinking this could be a real good opportunity, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, it appeared as though it could be. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right, and that's why I went.
Yeah, and if you don't give people the chance,
mm,
invite them to talk with you, then you're never going to get a client anyway. So
no, that's right, and it's not the first scammers I've come across either. I mean, a few years ago, I came across some from the United Arab Emirates as well. So the scam there was that yes, they would loan so many £1 million, but um, the second step in was that you need to pay an insurance fee. Well, what's that for? So they wanted £100,000 insurance fee on a loan of, I don't know, 10 million or something like that. Which you think, well, why wasn't this mentioned at the outset? And this is the sort of scammers that you get in property, probably in lots of other businesses as well. What appears to be a good bet, because they make all the right noises, they appeared to be a bona fide company, but that was a red flag, and so I didn't progress with that potential investor.
yeah, interesting, because I mean, I just recently, for a variety of reasons, I haven't been having the same number of conversations with potential clients as I would normally do. All right.
Mhm.
And I can very easily justify why that's the case. And I don't want to go into that thing. But the bottom line is this. First of all, I realized that I wasn't having the same number of consultations or one-on-one discussions that I normally have. And when I was having them, I was
Mm.
keeping them fairly brief, because I was physically not feeling all that well at that point in time, but I was
Yes,
also restricting them from actually working with me.
yes,
Right? And then I realized, because we got to tread this very narrow but very important balancing thing between being fair, being honest, being empathetic with people, being understanding with them,
yes,
but at the same time being aware of the fact that we need to build a business at the same time. So
yes, yes.
so yeah. Anyway, enough of that.
Mm.
John, what about, share some thoughts? You're sitting there looking very contemplatively at me.
One of the things I was just thinking about when Alan was talking, he gave some really great examples. And when it comes down to it, there's two things come out of any of your conversations. You can either earn, or you learn. And by
Yeah,
that, you learn what worked and what didn't work. This is where so many people go wrong. When you're done a conversation, analyze it. Go back through in your head. What did you say that got the responses that you wanted? What did you say that didn't get the responses you wanted? Were you coming across being needy? Because Peter shared this before. If you're needy, people can sense it, and they'll never do business with you. They may not physically realize or know why they said it, but they'll subconsciously get that you need this and you're pushing this sale, because nobody wants to be sold. You know, like Tina mentioned earlier, she wanted to buy, she wanted to know what I was doing. But if I'd have said, Tina, I'm the greatest, grandest, most wonderful thing going, you got to buy my services, she would have been, screw you, for a game of cowboys, I'm out of here.
Mm.
So, when you're talking to people, it's like Peter said, you've got a balancing act to do. You want to get to their real problem. You want to build that trust, show them that you care and have empathy for them because they're the most important part of this conversation. So when you do that, then people are going to say, wow, tell me more. Like Alan's got a really great business, and I've heard him over the few years that I've known him, that, hey, some of these people take a long time. But like he
Mhm.
said, you've got to build trust with these people. They're not just
Mhm.
going to come to you and say, gee, Alan, here's my property. It's only worth $1 million. You can have it for 750. They're not
Mhm.
going to do that. They
Mhm.
want to know what you're going to do, and they want a return on their investment. And I was chuckling when you said 4% on your money. You know, you could bring the 4% over here to Canada and they'll think that's a hell of a deal.
Right.
You know, the interest rate here is not that high. But
Wow.
when you look at it, people do want an ROI. The
Yes.
other
Yeah.
thing, when you're talking to these people, what is their COI? Their cost of inaction.
Hmm.
Because for a lot of people, we talk about the ROI and in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, most people can't see 90 days in front of them. So when you take a look at it, what's in it for me? WIIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. When you're talking to them, you have to find out what they want. It's not about you, it's all about them. So when you get down to what their biggest problem is, their real problem, not the surface level one, which is basically what they think you want to hear or a smokescreen, what is their real problem? And can you solve it? Because if you can't solve it, let them know. Be honest. Let them know that you can't solve it. If you know somebody that can, recommend them. If you don't know somebody that can, say, hey, you might want to look for a person that does X, Y, Z. You know, you're there to be a truth teller. You're there to be authentic and to answer them to the best of your ability. That's where you're going to build your trust and you're going to go from there. Thank you, Peter.
Well, thank you, John. And I listened to you very carefully and I understood everything that you said with COIs and ROIs and truth telling, etc. But there's one bit you lost me on, so I want to ask you, what in the heck is a game of Indians?
A game of cowboys, cowboys
Game
and Indians,
of cowboys, whatever. Yeah, I didn't understand that bit.
Canadian slang.
It's kind of an American slang too.
Yeah, it's just slang. Like what you Aussies have your slang, the British have theirs, and this is a North American slang.
Okay. Because the reason I asked you is because one of the biggest pitfalls that I fell into and I still did, even as recently as 6 months ago, within the LinkedIn environment, is that actually I joined a community, okay, which they call a group. All right, I joined a group on LinkedIn that were really full of my competitors, not necessarily my target audience, because the word sales is in there, right? I thought, but then I realized that everyone in there was actually all they were doing is the same as me. Well, what's the point? I mean, why would I bother to be marketing to my competitors? Because they're not my target audience. Although I must admit, there's quite a few of them I could have helped, be quite frank with you. Which raises one more point to me. And you alluded to this, John, about getting people to understand the problem that you solve. One thing that really hit home for me, because we're talking about getting followers but not buyers or not referrals in your case, Tina, right? The thing that really hit home for me is that people are not interested in the future. Okay, if you are trying to sell the future to them, okay, that's all well and good. But first, you need to find out and understand what the problem is they're facing right now. Right now. If you are selling the future, then you are joining the ranks of everybody else around the place. who you are trying to convince them that the future's going to be nice and rosy and all this stuff. And then you are then joining the ranks of everybody else. So you haven't differentiated yourself. But when you spoke with Tina, you didn't sell her the future. You talked to her about her, and you got to understand and appreciate and know her probably better than she knew herself at one point in time. So you weren't selling the future, John. You were selling the right now, and that is a key issue, I think. If we're getting followers but not the right number of buyers, maybe we're selling the future. Food for thought. I
You
mean,
brought up
let me
a good point there, Peter. You
let
know,
me
there's
before I forget this, because my old head's running out of space here. Sorry to be rude to you, but people can't think what it's going to be like in 3 months' time. They're lucky to know what it's going to be like tomorrow. That's the point I'm trying to get at. And more importantly, what's keeping them awake right now? That's the bit that if you can get that done, then you can talk about the future with confidence. But if you miss that point, that's what I'm trying to get at. If you miss that point, then you're not really going to build the relationship that you were expecting to do. Sorry, John.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, you have to solve the problem in this now. They don't know what's going to happen 6 months, a year, 2 years, 10 years down the road. Nobody does. They've got a problem now that they want to solve. Yes, it's great. Like you said, you can talk about what the future is going to look like, but until you solve the problem that they have now, it isn't going to matter. You know, if their business is on life support right now, and you start talking, well, 2 years from now, you're going to have $1 gazillion in the bank. That's nice. I need $1 gazillion today. I don't need it 2 years down the road. I need it right now. Or I need to get a new customer by Friday. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at 10 years, 20 years down the road. They might be at the most 90 days out. And when you can work on that challenge, that's when, like you said, now you could build on the future, but you've got to solve the now problem that's keeping them up at 2 o'clock in the morning and what have you. That's what they got to solve.
And it's something that many people ignore or don't realize that. But that came to mind when you were sharing your story and Tina was sharing a story about you two working together and getting to understand and know each other. That was hitting me right between the eyes. You were looking at her now, not in the future, and trying to understand and help her to get to where she was right now and why she was where she was right now. Because you were dealing with someone who's been in the business for 30 years. She wasn't some Johnny come lately playing cowboys and Indian games or whatever you use, right? Yeah. All right. No.
You know, the one other thing that I like to do with people, like what I did with Tina, was when I found out in her background about martial arts, law enforcement, what have you. You know, when she said she was a 5th Dan black belt in Taekwondo, the one thing that I did was I related building a business back to how she got up there in martial arts. You didn't get there overnight. You had to do things consistently. You know, Bruce Lee always said, I don't fear a person that can do 10,000 different kicks. I fear the person who's done one kick 10,000 times because they perfected that kick. And that's what Tina's done over all the years to get to that 5th level. She's perfected her talents in Taekwondo. And when you can go back to relating something in business to how they got there in whatever sport or whatever they excel in, now they've got a point of reference. Oh yeah, I had to do this a gazillion times to get here. Building your business is no different. You've got to master the basics first, because if you don't have the basics down, all the fancy crap isn't going to do you a damn bit of good. You know, the person selling you that fancy crap will love you because they love selling the next bright, shiny object. But until you mastered the basics in your business, nothing else is going to matter.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And Tina in your situation, share with us a little bit more about this, because correct me if I'm wrong, but when you have conversations, whether it be with potential referrals, maybe on the LinkedIn platform, or potential clients on any other platform, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, okay? When you're having conversations with these people, they would normally be pretty deep in nature, right? They're not
They get deep
superficial.
when when I when I make a connection. One, I have to be careful with my clients. So I've got to be careful what I say out in front of other people. So I usually try to take that into a DM right away, or I give them my text line so that we can have a short text and see if I can get them on a phone call. My position is I want to help. I, I need to make money, yes, but I want to help. If I can't, if they're not going to be able to hire me, that doesn't mean that I can't send them in the right direction. For instance, I had a recent connection that was given to me by Vesta Divorce, which is a large organization. They made a referral to me, and this person couldn't afford my services, but that doesn't mean that I can't point them in the right direction. So I pointed them in a direction of a pro se attorney, and then also in the direction of Legal Shield, which is a cheaper aspect to pay for an attorney to assist you. So I was able to give them help, and I didn't waste my time or their time. I listened to what they had to say. I realized they weren't going to be able to afford me. They're not my perfect client. So let me send them where they need to go to hopefully best that, because my job is to save them money. And if hiring me doesn't seem to me like it's going to save them money, then I want to send them someplace that they can hopefully get as much help as they can for as little money as possible. You know, it's not the best direction because they're not going to end up in the best place after that, but it's the best I can do at the moment.
Makes sense to me. I mean, and what you're really reinforcing to all of us, Tina, is the fact that when it comes to social media, whether it be Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, whatever it is, okay, it's nice to have comments on our posts, but commitment only comes from conversations.
Mhm.
And you were saying that as well. Okay, if you're not having deep conversations with people that you want to have conversations with, right? Not what they want to have. If you're not having those deep conversations, then you're not going to get the commitment. Therefore, your business is not going to grow anyway. And I hear the point you made about being very careful what you say and how you say it, and getting them off those platforms onto a call as quickly as possible. There's another factor there, and the factor is you can't control the algorithm of any of those platforms, but you can control when you get someone on a call, okay? And you can control that via, how would you say this, diarising them in terms of future engagement, booking times with them when you want to have times with them. So, and I'm trying to link it back to the topic. And the topic is I'm getting followers but not buyers, right? And your example is a really good thing for people who are watching this replay, to be realistic about who you're talking to get them off the social media platform as quickly as you can and into an area where you can have more control with them in terms of any future engagement you decide you want to have with them. And that was the message you gave me loud and clear. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. That's excellent. That is excellent. Anything else?
Alan, what are your thoughts on what we've shared so far?
It is all about building relationships, I think. And as Tina was saying, not everyone is going to be your ideal customer. And I do the same thing as Tina does in a different sort of environment. If I know I can't help a person, I'll try and point them in the right direction, and just make sure they get the right solution to whatever their problem is. So I think that always helps, that you are the authority in your field, and that you are recognised as a go-to person to ask questions of. And I think also community is part of the way to acquire more clients, because the more people are involved with you and see you in a community, then I think the more likely they are to actually approach you, perhaps with a small problem to start with, or something that's just troubling them. But when you're part of a community, you create an aura of trust around that community. So it's not as though someone's coming into a funnel and it's just a one-off. You're part of a community that specializes in a certain thing, and you can help people by being part of that environment.
Yeah, that's interesting, Alan, because that raises another issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is this. You mentioned the word, we need to be positioned as some sort of authority, and preferably a trusted authority, right? So then
Yes, yeah,
prepared to open up and share and tell us the truth about the circumstances and things like
yeah.
that. But this is the key. We have to be very careful that we are not trying to impress or educate people too much in order to get that authority in the first place. So what I'm saying to those who are watching the replay, not to you, Alan, or to Tina or John, but for those who are watching this replay, okay, here's my question to you. Are you showing off or showing up?
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between the two, right? Because
Yeah,
if you're showing off, then people are not going to resonate with you. People are going to think, who is this loudmouth? Who is this, holier than thou, Cowboys and Indian game changer, whatever you want to still want to know, whatever that is, right? But who is this person? And they will not resonate with you if you are coming across as the expert.
mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to push things down people's throat. So we need them to appreciate that we are an authority, but we can't convince them that we are an authority. We need to empower them, right? And this is a real challenge. We need to empower them to accept us by giving us permission to share with them what is in their best interest. And in doing that, they will
Yes,
see that we are an authority. They've got
yeah,
to make that decision. We're an authority. We should not try to convince them. That is the key thing that many people fail to do. They try to convince people, I am darn good. I am really good. I've been this and been that.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
You brought up an interesting point, Peter. I had a young man the other day on LinkedIn send me that he said if I sent him my ideal prospects, he would send me back what their challenges were, how to talk to them, and all the other great, grand, and wonderful stuff. So I said, okay. He sends me back this really nice report, straight out of Chat GTP, word for word. Never even changed a word in it.
Mm.
And he said, did I want to buy here's your report. Do you want to buy my services? Virtually what his words were. So being a nice guy I am, I sent back and said, Chat GTP gave you a very nice answer. You didn't even have enough sense to put your own words in here. Why the hell would anybody want to do business with you?
Mm-hmm.
He comes back, he said, well, yes, it is from Chat GTP. And I responded, right. You didn't change a friggin' word. It's written in Chat GTP language. He said, how do you know? I said, I put the same question into Chat GTP and got the same answer. No response.
Mm. Yeah, which raises another issue. Okay, we can remember our topic is on getting followers but not buyers, or getting back to Tina, not getting enough referral partners, whatever it may be, right? When people check your profile, can they see the problems that you solve for people?
So ask it again.
When people check your profile on whether it's on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, when they look at your profile, can they find the problems that you solve for people?
I believe they can. I try to get all of my profiles to read the same. And I had to update my bio to fit in some of the work that I've extended out into. And that hasn't been added on to everything yet, but those are the things that I believe are most important is because when somebody looks me up, they need to know. And I know when I get, and this is sad because I don't know how a marketer should put their name and what they help people solve at the top because that is the first reason I won't accept a friendship. If they come on as a marketer and they want to be my friend, I read what they do, and that's the quickest way for me not to accept their friendship. So for marketers, I don't know exactly how you want to put that on, but I have probably, I don't know, I would say 50% of the people I'm friends with on LinkedIn are marketers. And I don't want marketers aren't going to be my referral partner. And so early on, I was accepting friendships from other people, and it may not be 50% anymore, but I know early on that's what it was. And those people are not going to be my perfect referral partner, and that's what LinkedIn is for me. So I look and I read, so I don't know how a marketer is going to write something that I would want to accept their friendship from. But when you read mine, you're going to want to either accept my friendship because I'm dealing with divorce and what you and I do is close in nature, or you're hunting for somebody who can fix those things.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. And I mean, what it really means, Tina, is marketers are not your natural marketplace. That's fine. I totally agree with that. But by the same token, when they check your profile out, it's very clear the problems that you solve, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they check out, and I'm a marketer, when they check my profile out on LinkedIn, it's pretty clear the problems that I solve. I help small business people to build their business. I mean, it may not be something that a divorce specialist is interested in, but it's fine because that person may never be a potential client of mine anyway. My point was simply this: if your profile doesn't tell people very clearly what is the problem that you solve, then don't expect them to ever want to join with you anyway. Because confused people never make a decision to connect with you. If it's clear what you are, then you will get the right people connecting with you. That's all I was trying to say. Oh, sorry, running out of gas.
I just mentioned, Peter, that just as we've been speaking, I just got a message on WhatsApp from a potential either investor or property owner saying that they'd seen me on YouTube and was I still involved in property issues and so on. So after this call, I've got to reply to that person, just see what their problem is, see if I can help them. But we started off talking about social media, and it appears as though YouTube is a very useful channel for me. I also use LinkedIn and Facebook and others as well, but YouTube I think is the one that I focus on the most. And typically you do get people go onto YouTube and they're asking, how do you solve a particular problem? And sometimes they'll come across a video where I've given an example of solving a problem.
Why would you bother to tell them how you solve the problem? People don't want to know that. They just want to know, can you solve it?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, but you've got to talk to them about a certain amount of information, how you would go about it. it's going to be a very quick YouTube video for you to say, well, here's the problem. Yes, I can solve it, without some sort of explanation.
Yeah. Okay. To me, I don't want to confuse the issue here, but
No,
I
appreciate what you're saying. You don't want to give away too much of your expertise because that's the service you're selling.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is why I don't want to tell people how I'm going to solve the problem because they don't want to know. What they want to know is, can you solve the problem? Do I trust you enough to solve the problem? I mean, I've said this before, but just for the sake of making it very simple, if you take your car in for a service, right, there are a few questions you may ask, right? How much does it cost? What were the major problems? Is there anything I ought to be careful of, etc.
Sure, yeah.
But you'd never ask them what size spanner they used to fix the engine, would you?
No, of course
You're
not.
not interested. All you want to know is, can they fix the problem? That's what I was looking to. That's all. Okay.
That's the name of my program. Fall in love with your prospect's problem, not your solution or program, because they don't give a damn about that.
Yeah.
All they want to know is, can you solve my problem?
Yeah. And my last point, and we, if nothing else to say, we'll call it quits. But my last point, when we're talking about getting followers but not buyers, etc., comes to messaging on social media. And one thing that I have found that really works well for me is before I send a message to Alan or to Tina or to John, what I will do is I'll read it out loud to myself with the most skeptical thing on my head possible. I'll read it out loud and I think, does this sound like me? Does this sound like I'm trying to scam or spam people? Does this sound like I'm being truly genuine, or am I really showing I've got a hidden agenda? Because that's critical. If you're getting followers but not enough buyers or referral partners, then it's going to be, I can guarantee you, one of the biggest issues you have is maybe they're the wrong people you've got connected with, but if they're the right people, but you're messaging them the wrong way, then they're never going to buy into you. And messaging is a critical part of social media that most people take for granted. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think a conversation is better than a message any time. So, if you can get to a conversation, that's probably the best way to communicate.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts, or will we call it quits? Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your contributions. Love you dearly. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Cheers.